Are you shy because I am celebrity? Yes. Then let me think. Maybe you want to know the secret of my success. Am I right? I love myself.
Today on the Dusty Wright Show, very honored to have the UK indie filmmaker and director and Renaissance woman, Miss Sally Potter. Sally, welcome.
Thank you.
So what did you dream last night?
I think it was a dream-free sleep. Oh, you know what? I dreamt that I was awake when in fact I was asleep. Because I woke up at 5 a.m., looked at the clock, jet-lagged, useless. Sort of 5 a.m., right, that's it, forget it. And then thought I was awake until 7, but in fact woke up to look at the clock at 7.
And was it in color or black and white?
Well, I think it was even with lacking in visuals, so I would call it sort of black screen or white screen effect.
It was muted.
The colours were not there.
Yeah. Do you typically dream in color?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Having said that, I think that what black and white offers is a space for imaginative colour, a different kind of tonal range that allows you to sort of project colour into the spaces rather than have it given to you. One of the limitations I've always found, in fact, with colour on film stock, there's something too flat and pseudo-real in a way that black and white film captures something of the experience of light and shadow, or used to, and I think that's now changed with digital, because I think there's something about the use of colour, digital colour, that more resembles the way somehow the inner mind constructs colour.
It's this hypersense of reality, HD, these super saturated colors.
Well, that's more complicated.
Right.
I think HD can get hyper-real in the sense that it can be clinically precise. That does not resemble how the eye actually reads another individual or a situation. It's more like looking at a slab of meat under a microscope, you know, the pores of the skin and so on, that we don't really feel and see when we look. So I tend to be more interested in how a camera can in some way resemble or reproduce the subjective experience of seeing, looking and hearing actually, which is coloured in many other ways, less precise perhaps technically, more precise emotionally. And that takes a lot of course, technical and work with the artifice of the lens and so on to recreate that feeling, I think.
Now your current movie, Rage, you wrote it in a conventional manner, correct? You wrote it as a linear narrative, but you've constructed it differently, correct?
In the beginning, yeah.
In the beginning.
In the ancient past, about 10 years ago.
Oh, it started 10 years ago?
Ancient by digital standards.
Ah, yes, indeed.
Yeah. In the pre-digital period, I wrote it and thought, this isn't really going to work. This isn't the right way of doing this. And so I put it in the ubiquitous drawer, you know, for future reference. And then following having done a blog on a website and it explored both, you know, teeny-weeny cameras, making little filmettes on my cell phone to post on my blog and things like that. That helped me to find another way in, I might say, to the subject matter, and started all over again from scratch. And that's how I decided to shoot it the way I did, as if through the eyes of a blogger with a cell phone against a green screen.
Very, very imaginative. I mean, obviously the critics just love this kind of breakthrough, and we've kind of seen it in some rock videos. Sinead O'Connor did it years ago with Nothing Compares to You, and we've seen it a couple of other times. Wow, how frightening was it for your actors?
Oh, absolutely terrifying. They were going to be completely exposed. There were going to be no locations, no sets, no props, no cutaways, no long shots. It was all going to be about a kind of, if you like, a sort of pure performance. For all of us, a kind of naked cinema, not because of showing the flesh, but because of paradoxically for the digital age, no techno-wizardry, just a kind of techno-kindness. Which, yeah, so scary, even for the really biggest stars, a very, very scary and challenging situation, but I tried to create a kind of sort of safety, a risk-taking arena of safety.
Must have been terrifying for some of the actors. How did you create a safety net, an environment where they really felt protected by you as a director?
Well, the real trust is established through personal relationship, one-on-one. It's not really about what equipment you have or what setting you have. An actor has to feel that they are in hands that will protect them, and sincerely protect them, not just pretend to. And I think once you've established that, and established that risks are okay, making mistakes are not only fine, but you must in order to go into new areas and so on. Technically, however, the situation was very specific and not one that I'd ever been, used before or even dreamt of using, really, in colour or black or white or anything else. It was to shoot operating myself with a green screen, one-on-one with each actor, and handheld, using, in fact, in this instance, after many tests, a Panasonic HD X200 mid-range. Not a massive thing, a thing about this size, which would allow me to imitate the movement in the body that you have if you're shooting with a cell phone. But the lenses on cell phones are not, for me anyway, sufficiently precise. They wouldn't sustain, an hour and a half of looking at faces in that way. They will, I'm sure, in about a year or two, probably, but not right now. Anyway, a camera of this kind of size can mimic the feeling of movement and the way that people tend to use their cell phones, which is fairly close, a kind of arm's length thing that they can also reverse to look at themselves. So you get a kind of length and a kind of way that has nothing to do with what now feel to me very old ways of having, a camera that's vertical, where you look at the axis, you've got this vertical relationship to the face. We don't do that. We look at people like this. Your face now is slightly tilted. So in your inner eye, you're framing me slightly differently than the camera that is behind you, which is straight. There we were, green screen, two lights bounced off a reflector, no direct light, sheets on the floor, very kind of improvised feeling to it, in which it was then possible to concentrate exclusively on the performance, on the actor, and on a kind of subjective feeling relationship to their face, depending what they were saying and delivering and how they were doing that. So an absolutely different approach to camera work than I've worked with before. Very much less formal. And then in post-production, to rework even the quality of the light or the skin tone, and in particular what was in the background, which in this case I eventually settled on absolutely flat, digital, pure colour. Colour that was taken digitally from some detail in the actor's face, eye colour, tiny little part of the iris, zooming right in, finding it and then blowing it up and putting it over the mat of what had been the green screen or something in their clothes. Which then also became a kind of, if you like, sort of emotional use of colour behind them to bring out or emphasise or exaggerate what they were, what the character was working with, the emotional tone, the emotional colour, if you like, of the character. So again, something I haven't really done before, and which you can only do now with the tools at your disposal. But any really modest tools, the law, if you like, the internal law of the production was everything we do could be done by a 9-year-old boy on a laptop in his bedroom without his parents knowing.
I know exactly what you're talking about. My 11-year-old does the same thing. He and his buddies, they've created this serial movie on YouTube, and they go back and forth with a response to the movie that the other guy made. It's extraordinary how young the adapters are in this new technology. The other thing was the clothes selection, and again, you touched on that, which I didn't know, that you sampled colors from the clothes, the makeup, the eyes, the iris, everything, and the way that was framed with backdrops. The edges that you created was very dramatic.
Yeah.
Did you know that going in, or was that a happy accident?
Well, I had actually originally thought that I would be putting in much more complex backgrounds behind the individuals, and I shot a ton of backgrounds here in New York City. And then in the cutting room, when I put them in, matted them in behind the characters, it in a way detracted from the rigor of the minimalism, of the simplicity, if you like, from a feeling of connectedness with the face. And so I decided to get, in a sense, even more purist than I'd already set out to be, and just say, look, anything that detracts from our connection with this extraordinary face in front of us goes out.
Sally, talk about the actors. I read that you had 2 days with each actor to do all your scenes and your takes. What was that like?
Although 2 days isn't very much, actually, if all you're concentrating on is the actor, it suddenly begins to seem like a lot. But you know, time, as you know, changes during a shoot. An hour can seem like a week or a month or a year, and if you are fully in the moment and using it right. But no, it helps to relax people too, to say, as I did to each actor at the beginning, look, you know, we have time. If we need to do 20 takes or even 30 takes to find the character, to find where we are, to find the rhythm, we will do that. If we move on and to another scene and then feel that actually we didn't quite get it, we'll go back to the previous scene. It's okay. And that, I think, created, again, sort of relaxes the tension, the pressure in the atmosphere a bit. And so we did a fair number.
Sally, I was wondering, did you let the actors read the script in its entirety before, or did you shoot, just let them read their scenes? Because you know, you had a conventional linear story that you then decided to fashion in a different manner. Did you let them read it all the way through?
No, they got the whole script.
Okay.
And the script had been, you know, worked and reworked a sort of infinite number of times. It feels like, to arrive at the form. And even then, I changed it a little with each actor to fit like a glove, to help it feel like nobody else ever could have played that particular part, which I think is the correct approach with an actor. And so they read the whole. They knew what they were in, but then they didn't meet any of the other actors at all. It was one in, one out, you know. And for me, it was like going back to the beginning of the film every 2 days and following the arc of the whole story from that particular character's point of view. Again, a very sort of odd and interesting way to work, actually.
Yeah, very interesting. The actors, how do you get an actor, and I don't have enough experience as a director to not overact in a situation like that, where there's nothing to play off of except for the camera, and there's no external elements or, you know, not a prop or anything, you know.
Well, on the whole, direction, I have learned, consists of doing less than you think you have to. You know, shutting up, basically, and really watching and observing, respectfully and lovingly, what the actor is struggling to do. And reaching for a kind of state of authenticity that you both know how to recognize. You know. But you have to be, as a director, the first and best audience that actor will ever have. Because it's under the, so to speak, focused gaze that the actor can then really function and deliver. And when I mean focused gaze, I mean really, I try, when I'm looking at an actor, to think of nothing else. That is the only person in my universe at that moment. Of course, in the back of my mind, I'm holding the whole arc of the film and how will it fit, and is that too slow, will it edit, and so on, you know. And then I'll give feedback on that. So I might, in the instance of somebody pushing the energy out too much, that we call overacting, I might say, you could maybe pull it back a bit, you know, or, you know, whatever is the appropriate remark that will work. Some people need one to be very blunt and direct, like that was too big, you know. So for somebody else that could crush them, so you have to watch very carefully. And so maybe a more gentle hint, or maybe one can find another way in, you know, like that actually distracts the person from going too big, like giving them a place, a physical place to focus on the lens or something that will keep part of their attention anchored in something else. Whatever works. And you only find out what works by just looking with that, as I said, this sort of benign, loving, respectful gaze, you know. And they begin to feel that then, the kind of the force field, they feel surrounded by that look and held by it, which then gives the freedom to explore.
I read in one of your earlier interviews that you believe in cinema's transformative capacity. Was there a transformative moment for you as a young gal where you watched a movie and you just went, "Whoa"?
You know, I think they were really kind of an accumulation of moments rather than a single moment. And, you know, when you asked the question, I had a little kind of flurry of thoughts that came into my mind. So I will share this flurry with you. You know, ranging from Singing in the Rain, which is so absolutely layered with meaning. And when I began to research into the writers and what happened and how they were blacklisted, you know, you kind of feel with Singing in the Rain, this is a musical, but there's something really, really serious behind it too, and deep. And then you find out, my God, these are, you know, politically active, blacklisted writers, you know, Christ. And then the kind of feeling of joy, and then in a way that comes through the dancing, but also the history of the evolution of cinema that is so lovingly portrayed and, you know, gently satirized in a way. And then the next layer of allegory about truth and lies and who's really doing what and what you know, and so on, not just in cinema but in life that is in there. So I think I felt probably as a child when I saw it, a young child, that this was more than it appeared to be. But on the top level, the surface level, the transformative experience was the transformation that comes through laughter, you know, through sheer pleasure at looking at, for instance, at somebody dancing in a puddle of water, you know, with that absolutely kind of childlike sort of glee, you know. That's absolutely gorgeous. Okay, then you go to something like Last Year in Marienbad, you know, absolutely abstract, long, black and white shots, figures in a landscape that I saw probably when I was about 13. And I remember going, you know, while people around me were walking out bored and sort of alienated, I was entranced.
You know, we have all these ways of ingesting content today. We have, you know, the cell phone, laptops, home theater systems. Are we pushing the youth culture away from the cinematic experience, going to the dark movie theater and seeing this beautifully rendered movie on a big 16:9 aspect ratio screen? Are we killing that vibe for them, you think?
No. People were afraid that photography would kill painting, but it just made painters sit up and do more and interesting things. People were afraid that, you know, digital was going to kind of kill film. Not true. Not true in the way that we think. And I think that, for example, putting Rage Out first on cell phones is not going to kill the possibility of watching it big. But even my film aside, I think that what I saw last night at a party, people standing around their cell phones looking at the first episode of Rage. I thought, ooh, I'm here at the birth of a new way of looking. How extraordinary. Because they were standing around, it wasn't a completely solitary experience, but they were standing around and looking at it, perhaps in the way that people originally went and looked at miniatures, paintings. I thought, my God, the focus of the gaze that has to happen when you're looking at something small, and you're standing around it, and you have to focus your eyes, literally focus your eyes, your retina to look, and search, in a way, search, disappear into a kind of hole through this little screen. How extraordinary that is. And then people were standing around and talking about it. So it was a different kind of collective relationship to the moving image. Not a substitute for, just different. It's not an either-or situation. Now, being able to access things free in that way, you know, have a film in your pocket or on your laptop, something like that, is going to perhaps, I hope, make people that run cinemas sit up and think, oh, now we have to make going out to the movies a really more special experience. Comfortable seats, fantastic projection, you know, sharp, great sound, maybe some good food, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that because you're right, there is no substitute for the great big collective viewing experience. It's ancient. It's as ancient as the beginning of theatre. You know? It doesn't necessarily have to be in the dark for the Greeks to sit in an amphitheatre to watch their players, you know.
Right.
But it's a social experience. And the internet and the cell phone is an intimate experience that goes wide socially with multiple invisible others. It's still social, but you're not together physically in the room to do it.
Mm.
As I said, it's not either or, it's and.
Right. Yeah. It's a brave new world. We're in the hub of it, right?
Yeah.
We're in the hub of it.
Where else?
You must be hankering to work on a new project. You know, you're right in the middle of this whole press junk and everything. You know, do you have something looming on the horizon you just can't wait to sink your teeth into?
Well, yeah. What tends to, the rhythm I've discovered that I have, I didn't set out for it to be that way, is that when I'm in a film, and I'm still in it now, with you in it, I am 100% monogamous. You know, it is my world. Once this is finished, I will forget it. I will have amnesia. I won't look at it again, probably, if I possibly can avoid it. And I will be falling in love with the new. But I have got a couple, having said that, a couple of scripts I've been working on and off over the years, and a new idea that kind of came. But I have a longing, should I really be saying this? I'll say it anyway. I have a real longing to do a musical, and I don't know exactly what that would consist of or how it's possible to reinvent the musical form and drag it out of the era of nostalgia where it seems to be stuck into something that sort of really makes sense for now, but that's what I'd love to do.
Fantastic. Sally, thank you so much for being on our show. Is there anything you'd like to add?
I think we've covered quite a lot of
I think
bases,
we have,
haven't we?
yeah. I'm quite pleased by this. Hope you enjoyed yourself.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Miss Sally Potter for being on the show today. If you like my show, please leave your comments in the iTunes directory, as it does help with our ranking. And check our website daily for written reviews in all areas of the arts. This is Dusty Wright. We'll see you soon. Converge is the word.